First of all, nice to meet you, everyone. Like, if you turn on your cameras, would be the best thing in my life. Because I really want to see you. Can you hear me well? Yeah, all good.
Yes, can see.
Perfect, amazing. If you turn your camera, it's pretty nice because I don't really like to talk with names. I really like to talk with people. So it will be really helpful if you turn on your cameras. But yeah, if you have any issues in your camera, pas de problem. Okay, cool. So amazing. First of all, thank you so much for the invitation. I'm pretty happy to be here. I'm Sergio. I'm Sergio Kevin Morales Villarreal. In this session, you can call me Serge. It's all good, all nice. I'm Bolivian by nationality, but I'm also the elected national director for AIESEC in France for the next term 21-22. So I will be taking over the whole AIESEC in France network for next term. So I'm here to talk about what's happening in both countries. It's pretty interesting because actually both have extremely different realities when it comes to COVID, how they are adapting, what's happening, and so on. I really like participation. So if you would like to comment, ask some questions, I will have the chat open for anything you want to talk about. I'm pretty talkative person, so I really like to have some conversation. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's me. I'm right now in Bolivia. At the moment, I'm here because COVID didn't want me to move faster. And then, yeah, I will be going to France by the mid of the year, by August, sort of. So I will be going there. And yeah, I will be finishing. I will be doing my third master. Yeah, I'm a pretty nerdy person, also, just for you to know. So let's go. So what we're going to talk about what's the impact about COVID in France, in Bolivia, what are the measures that were taken, and what's the forecast future, what is going to happen, what people think is going to happen, what we are believing that is going to change in our realities, because COVID is changing so much our realities and how we perceive stuff right now. So it's super important to take into consideration this. So let's go first. This statement, I always think that it's very important to remember that COVID changed everything. I would really like, for you to understand that it was a full change, but also it also amplified everything, because actually all the problems that we're having, poverty, lack of employment, and so on, all these different issues that we're having in the world are actually problems that are happening since a long time ago. And COVID just was the reason why everything was amplified. This is important to take into consideration, because sometimes we just say, oh my God, COVID is the perfect excuse. I can tell you, COVID is the perfect excuse. COVID is the perfect excuse for me for not going to the gym, for not me to exercising, but COVID is a good excuse to say, no, everything was super nice before COVID, and then COVID ruined everything. No, that's not true. COVID is just an excuse right now. So it's super important for us to take into consideration that the problems that we have in the past were amplified somehow by COVID and by what happened in COVID, thanks to COVID. So let's check some numbers. First of all, let's go with Bolivia, my home country. This is in Spanish. I know that you understand anything of this, but what we're seeing here? First of all, we're seeing that what are the measures that are, companies are taking right now in order to survive after COVID in the following 3 months. 82% of the companies are trying to fire people. So they are looking forward to fire people because they know that this is it's unsustainable at the moment. 67% of the companies, they are looking for credits. So they're looking for credits to sustain their operations and to maintain their operations. 60% of them, they are diversifying. What do I mean with diversifying? I don't know if this is a thing that is happening also in Sri Lanka, but at least in Bolivia, a lot of people are opening their own restaurants, delivery foods, and so on. So it's pretty new right now. Like it's moving a lot in that way. So people are diversifying their revenue. So that's what's happening right now. They are trying to diversify the way they're getting money. Then obviously, 52% of the companies, they are thinking to close their business. So this is super important to take into consideration. 52% of companies in Bolivia, they are taking into consideration to close a business because it's not sustainable anymore. And finally, some of them, they are trying to change their field of work. So 48% of the companies are thinking on changing everything that they were doing in the past. But this is pretty important because actually we are thinking in the companies that are pretty big, pretty relevant and so on. But there is a really huge percentage of citizens in Bolivia that are actually living from non-formal work. What am I meaning with non-formal work? Americans. We're talking about people that just have their businesses, like they don't have this high income, so they are not coming from a company. They have a really, really not formal way of earning revenues. Also taking into consideration, there is also, this is the worry of the companies. So in this case, 82% of the companies are thinking that if there is another quarantine due to different variants of the virus, they're not gonna be able to operate again. So that means like quarantine means no operation. 82% of the companies are worried about it. Then obviously 67% they are worried about the liquidity, which means that they cannot generate the money that they were generated to cover their expenses. They cannot pay their salaries, they cannot pay their rents, they cannot pay like taxes. Taxes is a super important thing to take into consideration, right? So they are not being able to pay all this stuff. So that's why you have in the three next, that 60% is salaries, 52% is rents, and 48% is taxes. And finally, the 31% of them, they are worried about how they are going to be able to pay or to achieve their contracts, because it's not possible. It's not possible to get all the contracts done and going on the way that we expected. So that's what's happening in Bolivia. Actually, a third world country, we're not really developed. We're in the world of in the moment of development and so on. So it's pretty worrying. How's the situation evolving and how the things are moving on in terms of economically talking. But let's go to talk about France. We would say, France, first world country, très à la française, everything will be cool, everything will be nice. But actually, pretty interesting is that around 523,000 people lost jobs during the pandemic. So this is the amount of people that more or less they lost their jobs. Only in Ile-de-France, which is where Paris is, so it's around 120,000. So this is a really, really worrying number. What am I saying? This is worrying because if you understand a little bit more the concept in France, when you lose your job, there is this thing called chômage on French, that they are getting supported by the government. So then all these people should be able to get support by the government in order to sustain their way of living. So what does it mean? We're really living on the taxes that the people that are still working and paying. So then, this is a lot mess that is happening in France, actually. So this is super important to take into consideration because of the laws, how things are moving on right now, and how people are really losing their jobs. It's for me, it's pretty worrying. I would say it's super worrying as a point of view, as a person. I'm living in France and I love France. So it's something really interesting. But also, as I was saying to you again, there is this really few people that really work in companies. So again, even though we think France, it's pretty big country, really few people they are working as a salarié. Salarié means they are working for a company. So that means that this other huge amount of people are working for Americans. I was telling you, they have their commerce, they have their stores, they maybe are working on transportation, they have a taxi, all of this stuff. It's pretty unsustainable right now because people are losing jobs. So then all these people should get a way of revenue, and this is going to go directly to the people that are having informal ways of earning revenues. So yeah, things are complicated. But what is happening actually in these two countries? Let's first go for Bolivia, the measures that were taken. At the beginning, the lockdown really didn't help us in many ways. Why am I saying this didn't help us in any ways? Because the lockdown stopped operations. Then we started opening things, we started reducing quarantine, we started reducing stuff. And then after that, we had a curfew, depending on the cases. So depending on the cities, you were having curfew for more time, less time, and it depends. Measures that are still not being able, because right now we are reaching one of the highest numbers of deaths and cases in the whole history for the pandemic. For France, from the other side, lockdown also super important. But then they were focusing a lot on public schools. schools, lycée, college, and so on, they were going on this side. But then the focus is right now vaccination. They're trying to reopen stuff. Apparently, everything will be open by June. Let's see. But they could, like, because of vaccination, we need to check it out and see what is going to happen. So this is super important to take super into consideration. Cool. So I hope that you get a lot of information about what's happening in France. I think that you need to move. I get it. Yeah, you need to move to the next room. But yeah, take into consideration all this stuff. I hope that you get a lot of information about France. Yes, by the way, everyone that is here, they should be moving. You can move to the other room. Yep. Now, yes, I guess I'm changing faces or I'm changing names. De rien. Okay, I think here we have new people. Yeah, yeah. People are moving and coming here. Okay, hello to new people. Okay, nice. So let's start the second second round of this amazing thing. Cool. So first of all, welcome to everyone. This is Sergio. I'm Sergio Kimar Villarreal. You can call me Serge, no problem. If you have questions, you can drop in the chat. I'm watching here, so all good. I'm Bolivian by nationality, but I'm also working as national director of AIESEC in France for next term, 21-22. So yeah, I will be moving from to France in August, and I will be living there back again because yeah, things didn't go well, and then I had to move back because of COVID. So yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about information about what's happening in both countries, both Bolivia and France, for you to take into consideration. If you have questions, again, put it in the chat. Amazing. So those are the things that we're going to talk about. The first thing that I want to tell you is that the first statement I want you to take into consideration with me is that COVID changed everything, right? We know that COVID changed a lot of stuff, that things are moving on, that we need to readapt and so on, but it's super important that also understand that COVID also amplified stuff. There were problems in the past. There are problems right now that are amplified because of COVID. All these things that we are living, like no jobs, no salaries, no money, and so on, they are amplified because of COVID. They are not just new. Like things that happen are not new. So just COVID just showcase what was wrong in the world. So just a little bit of numbers for you to take into consideration. These are numbers about how companies are reacting and thinking to react in the following months when it comes to COVID. First of all, the majority of them are thinking of firing people, sad. Then also companies are thinking on taking credits because they need to sustain their operations somehow. Then they are also thinking of diversifying their revenues. What does it mean? That they want to change their way of working, their field of working, and so on. 52% are thinking of closing their businesses. So this is pretty worrying because a lot of companies are closing during this time in Bolivia. The biggest worries about companies. The biggest one is the they're thinking that if there is another quarantine because we are raising a lot of cases, they're not going to be able to operate. So that's something that we need to take into consideration, because quarantine means no operation, no movement, nothing. Then they are also thinking that they're going to lose liquidity. Liquidity means that they are not going to have money to pay things and so on. So this is super important. 67% of them are thinking that. Salaries are not going to be able to be paid. Super important. Rent also. Taxes are not going to be able to be paid. So these things are things to take into consideration for Bolivia. For France, if we think that, oh my gosh, France, super developed country, is not the case. So around 523K people lost their jobs during the pandemic. But this is something to take into consideration, because it's really, really worrying people, because when they pass from being salarié, they are working, and they pass to work and be on chômage, which is when you're unemployed, government needs to support you economically. So then there is a lot of things that government is paying right now in order to sustain these people that are losing their jobs. And that number is pretty worrying. And then if you think also in the context of France, if we take into consideration this, a lot of people, like 3 million people, are non-formal workers. What does it mean? They have their commerces, they are taxi drivers, they work on their own, they have their, they work on transporting, they maybe are, like renting their apartments to get some money and so on. So this amount of people are getting non-formal ways of income. So that's pretty worrying, because they're like, these people don't have a continuous revenue. So that means that in these cases, they are going to be losing a lot of money. So measures that were taken in Bolivia, first, we had lockdown, really long lockdown. Then after that, we focus a lot on public schools and economic activities. Right now, all economic activities are moving on, but bars and discos and schools close again, because we're having a race of cases right now. We're facing the third wave at this moment. And then the curfew, depending on cases. So we have curfew in some cities. For example, in Cochabamba, my city, we have curfew on Sundays. Total lockdown on Sundays, and the total week we have until 22 hours. So that's how it's going right now in Bolivia. In France, it's pretty similar. I would say it's pretty interesting how is it moving. Nevertheless, France got another second lockdown recently, and right now they're moving out of this lockdown. They focus a lot on public schools. They focus a lot on the schools, on the college and the lycée and so on, so they can move forward. But also, they are focusing a lot on vaccination. This is super important, because the way and the ratio of vaccination in both countries are super different. In Bolivia, it's pretty slow, and in France, I won't say it's fast, because it's not fast. It's let's say like meh. It's going there, but it's not going really nicely. Anyways, it's something to take into consideration too, because that's how things are moving. And actually, France is one of the countries that is promoting the vaccination passport, which is going to be a requirement in the future for non-European citizens to enter into European Union. So this is pretty interesting to take a look on. Okay. After that, there are some things, like the first focus is biosecurity awareness. I think that this is super important. Both countries are trying to do it. France is having more success than Bolivia. I can assure you that, because in Bolivia, we're having this problem that people don't like to use masks. There is this movement, no COVID. COVID doesn't exist. It's invention of Rockefeller or something like that. Stupid things. But that's happening in Bolivia. In the other case of France, people are following biosecurity, but they are against vaccination ideology. So there is this confrontation of ideologies that is pretty interesting. I really recommend you take a look on that. Also, vaccination, I was telling you, is pretty important. In Bolivia, we're using actually it's pretty interesting because of the context, political, economical context of Bolivia. We only have Russian and Chinese vaccine. From the other side, France is having only Pfizer and AstraZeneca. So this is like the two faces of the coin of how these economical and political behaviors and the whole context affects on how the vaccination is moving on. In this case also, we're receiving really few vaccinations in Bolivia. In France, it's pretty high. So you can see the two differences in this case. Also, the vaccine passport. I don't know if you have heard about it. I really would like to know if you have heard about it. But this is going to be something that is going to be a thing in the future. I assure you that in the future, countries are going to ask for a passport, for a credential that tells, hey, you're vaccinated. It happens for other diseases. It happens for yellow fever. For example, in my case, I'm Bolivian. I need to get yellow fever vaccine in order to go to the US, in order to go to Brazil, because it is what it is. So that's how it's going. So this is going to happen the same for COVID for sure. But this is not going to be, it is inevitable. But how we react about it and how people are, getting vaccinated, it's super important, and how we create this immune world. I'm not pro or against vaccination. I need vaccination to go to France, so I need to get it. If I would have to choose, I won't get it because I'm pretty fine. I didn't get COVID in this whole year, but anyway, it's something I need to take into consideration. I think that it's a pretty controversial topic. I would say if you read the news about France and so on, it's super controversial about this vaccine passport that is coming here. Also, I would say, and I want to recommend you, this is something more like personal from my side, stop grieving. At the moment, people want to have the things that you were having in the past, but that's not gonna come back again. That's something that we need to face. Stop thinking, okay, virtual conference need to be as good as physical conference. That's not gonna happen. There is no way that is gonna happen. Even if you have augmented reality, if you want to have you feel that you're in a conference, sitting in a seat in a conference, that's not going to happen. Well, at least not in the near future. So this is super important because we need to adapt. And this is something I really want for you to take into consideration, that adaptability means accepting what's happening right now and moving forward. So I really recommend you to move forward, to keep going, and stop grieving. Things are different, but that doesn't mean that they are bad. Things are different, virtual is different, but personally, I'm a person that works online every single day. So literally, this is super important because I'm also enjoying the idea of people understand how is virtual work right now. So yeah, again, adaptability. And finally, we open the eyes to bigger issues. We need to understand that bigger issues were happening. All these mental issues were exposed, and right now people are taking care about this. So maybe it was something good that came after COVID. So yeah, that would be it. Thank you so much for your time. I know that I spoke a lot. If you want to contact me by any ways, the first is my Instagram. Then you have my LinkedIn. If you want to contact me, you want to connect, you want to talk about something, we can talk anytime. I'm always open to have some nice chit chat and discuss any kind of topic that you would like to. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you get some nice information. Yeah, that would be it. Thank you so much. I think we're going to be closing in 2 minutes or no, yeah, something like that. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat. I can answer right now, super fast. Yeah. Okay, let's go back. Thank you so much for your time. You can go back now. Bye.